Just ahead on News 10, search crews find more bodies and the black box from the ValuJet crash. And Troy leaders get an earful over a plan to allow a mid-year tax hike.
Coming up in weather, better news ahead. The latest on flooding and snow in Vermont. That and much more, so stay with us.
And here's more of what's ahead on News 10 at 11. With the Memorial Day holiday and the official start of summer just 2 weeks away, Lake George passes tougher laws to keep the tourist season safe. Our News 10 health team report focuses on cholesterol, some new guidelines on when to have it checked and why you should know the good cholesterol from the bad. Plus, a crackdown on Medicare and Medicaid fraud nets millions of dollars. That and more seconds away.
This is News 10 at 11.
Investigators hope to find some answers as the data flight recorder is recovered. Good evening, everyone. I'm Angela Hampton.
I'm Jim Brennan.
The search continues for more clues in Florida. Divers have recovered chunks of airplane no longer than 8 feet long, as well as more human body parts and the flight data recorder of ValuJet Flight 592. They're still looking for the cockpit voice recorder. A news conference by the National Transportation Safety Board ended less than an hour ago, revealing more details about the investigation.
The Navy tomorrow is going to be looking at the primary impact area and hopefully giving us an idea of what the task exactly will entail in terms of removing the wreckage from that area, because clearly that wreckage is going to be extraordinarily important to us.
Francis also says the recorder was bent in the middle, but was in relatively good shape compared to past accidents. The data recorder is being taken to NTSB headquarters in Washington for analysis. Meantime, a preliminary inspection showed no catastrophic damage to either of the DC-9's engines. That particular ValuJet aircraft was 27 years old and recently sold to ValuJet by Delta. Since the crash on Saturday, questions have surfaced about safety on a startup airline. And while passengers still continue to feel safe, News 10's Tracy Egan is live at the Albany County Airport and joins us now with more on this. Tracy?
ValuJet has been a very popular airline, and some travelers from the capital region have found the savings worth the drive to Bradley Airport in Hartford to pick it up. Whether it remains popular in the wake of the crash remains to be seen, but some people aren't waiting to find out why the jet crashed to make up their minds.
I won't fly ValuJet. I'd just pay a little extra just for peace of mind.
Even if it was free, Todd Branson says he wouldn't fly ValuJet. While it's no secret that the average age of ValuJet's DC-9 fleet is 26 years, the flying public is largely ignorant about whether they're flying old or new aircraft. We went to the Aerosciences Museum at Schenectady Airport to speak with a retired aircraft and power plant mechanic about whether old age in a plane equals lack of safety.
Older airplanes, they can be kept in good condition. It all depends on how much maintenance effort is put into them.
Wally Holbrook says metal fatigue is a concern in old aircraft, but that it is constantly tested. The National Transportation Safety Board today started going over the records with the maintenance crew that worked on that ValuJet.
Well, I'd like to know what faults it had, what squawks there were on it, and then what was done about those squawks, if they were all taken care of. If they're not just doing the paperwork, if they're really taking care of the machine like they should.
What do you mean, just doing the paperwork?
Well, signing off whatever is wrong with it. And, I don't think they do that.
One discount airline operates out of Albany, AirTran. It flies 737s, a younger aircraft than those flown by ValuJet, but like ValuJet, farms out its maintenance work. That kind of subcontracting and lower labor costs are two of the reasons discount airlines can fly travelers for less. And for some, that's still what counts most.
So ValuJet has actually saved us a lot of money. I don't mind.
So a sizable portion of the flying public appears to believe what the FAA has been saying, that cut-rate airline does not mean cut-rate safety. Tracy Egan reporting live from the Albany County Airport.
Okay, Tracy, thanks a lot.
Well, just in time for summer, the village of Lake George has voted to toughen its open container law. Fines will now be higher, and there will also be a threat of jail time if an offender cannot pay. The original open container law, which started back in 1960, only fined people as much as $50 for a violation. Now, the fine can be as high as $250. And if you can't pay, you could spend up to 15 days in jail. Officials say they will have more control now over the streets, especially on weekends and summertime. Troy has postponed till Wednesday its vote on a charter change to allow for a mid-year tax hike. That proposed hike of 21% faced near unanimous opposition at a public hearing tonight.
I am giving up on Troy.
One thought shared by many. 100 or so on hand for this latest opportunity to vent anger at the proposed hike. People trying to invest in Troy saying they'll no longer be able to do it.
I am hesitating as whether I should continue to invest in the city.
You're never going to see any new business in Troy. On top of 38% water increase, I don't know if I'll be able to pay the bill. I definitely am not going to pay the tax increase.
Nearly 24 people addressed the council, many of them very direct.
Any moron can raise a tax. You know, we thought you people had brains. We hope you do. This is what you need to do. You need to think.
Several people implored the council to think of new revenue sources and other ways to close the budget gap.
We need a new tax base, not a new tax increase.
Naturally, different people have different reasons for opposing the tax hike, but a popular target tonight were the churches, the hospitals, and the colleges, and the other tax-exempt property that makes up 52% of this city.
We have churches that own apartment buildings with a daycare on the first floor and renting flats that have been tax exempt for the last 12 years. Not one, several.
There were just two who spoke for the tax increase, both from CSEA, the union for municipal workers who may lose their jobs. In fact, one did work for the city.
I ask each of you on the council to consider this and vote for the tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Council President.
Now, 5 of the 9 council members favor the tax hike, but 6 votes are needed for the required 2/3 majority. However, the law allows the issue to be reintroduced, and a second time, only a simple majority is needed, so the 5 votes will pass it the second time. One person at the meeting tonight labeled that whole scenario ridiculous.
The Supreme Court has made a ruling that could erode President Clinton's efforts to limit cigarette advertising. In a splintered vote, the justices have decided that a Rhode Island ban on liquor pricing ads is unconstitutional. They say the ban violates free speech rights.
Decision today, the FDA cannot regulate tobacco advertising in the manner in which they propose, because, as we have said in our comments, it will be a violation of the First Amendment.
The decision comes in a challenge that specifically targets the Rhode Island ban, but it also seems to apply to President Clinton's proposals to forbid cigarette advertising at sports events, on clothing, and other goods. About 3,000 state workers are getting closer and closer to D-Day, which some say stands for Disrupt Your Life Day. As part of the Pataki administration's workforce reduction plan, workers will be transferred, demoted, or laid off. The Public Employees Federation says all state agencies should work together so that an interagency transfer plan can negate the need for layoffs.
The old game of each agency being its own little fiefdom and operating independently, and that's what this whole new plan was supposed to do. If you're a state worker in one agency and you can go to do the job in the other agency, then you shouldn't hit the street while the other agency is hiring.
PEF says the governor should not lay off any more workers until the state adopts a budget. The union believes the legislature will restore some of the money the governor wants to cut.
The White House says President Clinton will veto a GOP Pentagon spending plan for the next fiscal year unless changes are made. The $267 billion budget includes $13 billion Mr. Clinton says is unnecessary. The House takes up the measure tomorrow.
And time to take a look at tomorrow's weather. Steve Caporizzo has that for us.
Angela and Jim, before we talk about tomorrow's weather around here locally, I want to take you over to Bennington County, Vermont. Earlier this morning, some scenes from Mount Equinox at an elevation of 3,816 feet. It snowed. It snowed yesterday. It was snowing this morning. And up at the summit, upwards of 4, 5, and 6 inches of wet snow. It was like a winter wonderland. We can all shake our heads. Let's check on tomorrow to glance around here. It's going to be a cold morning. Now, if you have plants outside, you may want to cover them right now because I think there's going to be a widespread frost. 32 degrees. Some places may dip into the upper 20s. Sunrise will be at 5:34. But tomorrow will be a nicer day with, I think, quite a bit of sunshine through late morning into the early afternoon. Temperatures recovering 53 and then partly sunny and 62 later in the afternoon, and it won't be as windy. We will have the complete forecast and recap some of the flooding problems which still persist in parts of upstate New York a little bit later on. Back to you.
Okay, Steve, thanks. And still ahead, how old should you be to get your cholesterol checked? Maybe younger than you think.
While the Atlanta Hawks were looking to stop the bleeding and keep their season alive, NBA playoff highlights later in sports.
Reporting to you Jim Brennan, Angela Hampton, meteorologist Steve Caporizzo, Dan Murphy on sports. Stay with us as News 10 at 11 continues.
News 10 at 11 is brought to you by your local Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
William Colby was buried today in Arlington National Cemetery after a private service. The former CIA director disappeared April 27th while canoeing near his southern Maryland vacation home. His body was found 8 days later. O.J. Simpson says he fled from police after his ex-wife's murder because he was hurt by others' suspicions that he had murdered her. Appearing on a British television talk show, Simpson says he was being attacked for the first time in his life and he just wanted the pain to stop. Asked why so many Americans believe he's guilty despite the fact he was acquitted in the case, Simpson blamed the media. He says news reports on the case have been inaccurate and skewed.
A crackdown on Medicare and Medicaid fraud is being hailed as a big success by the Clinton administration. The Department of Health and Human Services says the 5-state program has recovered more than $42 million, about 10 times what it cost to fund that crackdown. Cholesterol. It's the soft, fatty-like stuff found in animal fats and oils. And there are two kinds, good and bad. Well, when should you get yours checked, and how thorough should those tests be? That's the subject of controversy, and News 10 Health Team reporter Liz Berger is here with more on that.
Angela, here's the question. Do you check the total cholesterol or both the good and bad cholesterol? New guidelines by the American College of Physicians say all men between 35 and 65 should be tested for total cholesterol. And for women, it's ages 45 to 65. But the American Heart Association says those recommendations are misguided. Dr. Michael Miller is researching cholesterol and heart disease. He says we shouldn't limit the number of people who get tested. In fact, he says we should get more people tested.
Since screening is not expensive and could yield a lot of important information, that it behooves us in the medical community to at least identify those individuals who may be at risk for a heart attack.
Dr. Miller recommends a cholesterol check before the age of 20, earlier for those people with a strong family history of heart disease.
If you have a high cholesterol at a young age, then you're at risk to developing heart disease.
There's also concern about the type of screening being recommended by the College of Physicians. It mentions only total cholesterol levels. Dr. Miller says it's important to know your HDL, or good cholesterol level, as well.
People that have a low HDL are at high risk of having a heart attack.
Michael Keller learned that when he suffered a heart attack at the age of 42. His overall cholesterol level at that time was fine, but no one tested his HDL level, and that was dangerously low.
We need to identify those individuals in the hope that we can do something for them.
I could have began a more regimented exercise program. I could have watched my diet more, and there's a lot of things he could have done to help it.
That's why Dr. Miller says we need to change the way we think about cholesterol screening. The American College of Physicians declined an interview for this story. Now, it's estimated that 96 million American adults have high cholesterol, and the American Heart Association says more than a third of all children also have high levels of cholesterol.
That's
a frightening statistic,
yeah, for little ones. What about those tests you see in the drugstore, the home tests and whatnot? Are those accurate?
Well, what they don't do, they do not tell you the difference between your high cholesterol, or rather between your levels of good and bad cholesterol. Yeah, they are accurate, but they don't tell you the difference between your good and bad.
They don't do the distinction.
Right. And it is, the good versus the bad is something that people should talk to their doctors about, absolutely.
Okay, and to specifically ask, about that kind of thing.
What the good is and what the bad is, yeah.
Alrighty. And tomorrow night you're talking about something else a lot of people are interested in.
We're talking about back pain. A new therapy is helping some people with back pain. There's actually a medical cement that can give almost instant relief to those with debilitating pain. The cement acts as a cushion and protects against the pain.
As a cushion, huh?
Absolutely.
That sounds fascinating. I'll look forward to that one. All right, thanks, Liz.
A study finds more than a quarter of banks fail to warn people about the risks of the mutual funds they're pitching. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation says the key issue is that consumers should be told that many of the bank's investments are not covered by federal insurance. Now, unlike banks' mutual funds, savings accounts and certificates of deposit are insured by the FDIC up to $100,000 in case of a bank failure. In 30% of the cases surveyed, banks fail to tell customers that stocks, mutual funds, and other investments are not federally insured. Stocks pushed broadly higher today, encouraged by another drop in interest rates on the bond market.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed 64.5 points. Take a look at the closing numbers right now, and we'll be back in a moment.
I'm Chris Wallace. Coming up on Nightline, younger pilots, older planes. Questions about air safety lead many to ask, do you dare fly cut rate? Tonight.
Now, meteorologist Steve Caporizzo with News 10 Doppler Weather.
And more problems, of course, with rising waters and whatnot over the weekend.
Well, you know, the water table's been so high all winter long and into the spring, and such is the case with the Mohawk River. In fact, we're going to take you over to the Cohoes Falls, one of the more spectacular places to see the high water. And boy, oh boy, is it going over the falls. The water flowing obviously into the Hudson River, causing the problems. By the way, did you know the Cohoes Falls is the second largest falls in the state of New York, based on volume of water going over the falls, second only to Niagara, and the falls themselves 86 feet high. That is an unbelievable and awesome sight, the power of nature. I want to let you know about the latest flood advisories and flood warnings. Only one that we're keeping an eye on, and we do have good news here. The flood warning continues for you folks along the Hudson River from Schuylerville to the Troy Dam. It has crested the river, and it will slowly fall through tonight into tomorrow morning. I want to bring you up to date on something that I find amazing, how the weather can change from one year to the next so dramatically. Look at the rainfall and melted snow combined for 1995. 1 year ago, we had 8.53. That was the drought year. This year, we've had 18.51. So we've had 10 more inches of liquid this year as compared to 1 year ago. Let's check on the Albany County Airport. We have clear skies and 40 degrees. Humidity, 55%. The barometer's rising. High temperature today, not all that warm, 52. Low at 39. And there are the records, 86 and 30. Tonight, skies have cleared out. And with clearing skies, that means the temperatures will be dropping fast. In fact, we're seeing that right now with many locations dropping into the 30s and lower 40s. Glens Falls at 34, the same temperature at Poughkeepsie, though New York City traps in that heat, and their temperature at 51. News 10 weather watchers, Mary Himmelrick in Wilton 30, 35 in Root and Schoharie, Manchester Center 40, the Gavazzi family 35 and 33 in Sheffield. Frost warnings are in effect, so protect your plants. If you have them outside, if they're in pots, of course, bring them on indoors. 26 to 32 in most places by tomorrow morning. Chilly in the east, nice and warm down along the south. In fact, you get it to the southwest, it is scorching heat. 106 degrees this afternoon at Phoenix, Arizona, 103 at Las Vegas, Nevada. Now tomorrow, high pressure moves off to our south. We're going to have a mix of clouds and sunshine here. The key tomorrow, it won't be nearly as windy as it was today. And with any sun at all, I think temperatures should be up around 60 or 63 degrees. But it's not going to last long because we'll have an area of showers, looks like moving in sometime Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday night. So make the most of tomorrow. You may want to attempt to mow your lawn if it dries out. Forecast, frosty cold tonight, clear skies, record breakers. In fact, a record low for Albany, 31. We're going to be close to that, 26 to 32 tomorrow morning. For tomorrow, we're looking at mix of clouds and sunshine, more clouds in the mountains, 60 to 65. A west wind 10 to 18 miles per hour. Mostly clear tomorrow night with some clouds by morning, 36 to 42. Wednesday, thickening clouds, some showers mid to late afternoon, 60 to 65. Vermont and the Berkshires, frosty cold tonight to mid-20s. And for tomorrow, clouds and sunshine. There'll be more clouds up towards Rutland, 57 to 62. And here's your 5-day forecast. Some rain or showers on Thursday. And let's keep our fingers crossed. I hate to jinx things on a Monday, but it may turn out to be a nice end to the week and beginning of the weekend.
Say no more, because we don't want to jinx it.
No, I'm not going to say anything else. Last week we jinxed it.
We did.
We sure did.
Can only hope.
All righty. Just ahead in sports, Murph will let us know if the first member of the NHL's Final Four is in place.
And will the song make his way to the microphone on Saturday? We'll get the latest after viewer comments.
Next, Dan Murphy with News 10 Sports at 11.
Magic going for the sweep tonight.
Yeah, it's a good game, yeah, they didn't look like they had their heart in it. I think they want to win this at home. Winning streaks are usually something that don't get talked about in the postseason because they don't often occur in the postseason. But after sweeping Detroit in 3 games in the opening round, Orlando Magic had a chance to complete a second straight sweep tonight. This potential sweepee, the Atlanta Hawks, but Hawks came out flying. Mookie Blaylock and Steve Smith bombing away. Orlando playing no defense early. Atlanta with 67 first-half points. They led by 20 at the break, but the Magic decided to play third quarter. They outscored Atlanta 36-15, led by Penny and Shaq. Orlando up 1 after 3 after being down by 20 at the half. But the Hawks get back to business in the fourth. Greg Elo with a big 3. Then here's the key sequence of the game. Shaq misses the alley-oop jam, and it results in a Hawks break and a layup by Elo at the other end. Atlanta hands Orlando their first postseason loss, 104-99. So the Magic will now have to wait until Wednesday night to polish off the Hawks, while Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals is scheduled for Sunday. That is, unless the Knicks force a Game 7 with the Bulls, but it's hard to think that'll happen, especially with a coach who's too busy whining about Sunday's loss.
Started at 2:18, and there were 5 calls. 5. Oakley strip, Ewing's travel, no call on the charge of Rodman, no call on the blockout foul as Oakley went to the offensive board on Patrick's miss, travel on start. There are 5, so don't count on, just don't talk about 2 if you're going to talk about them. They're all 5.
Grow up, Van Gundy. Meantime, the 76ers have done what's needed to be done. They fired head coach John Lucas following a stellar 2 seasons in which the Sixers went 42 and 122 under Lucas.
Philadelphia 76ers organization on and off the court. I felt that the best thing to do would be to move in a different direction and start the process, the next process actually of finding another coach.
And amen to that. It's been a surprising second round of the NHL playoffs, especially out west. The Red Wings need to win tomorrow. They'll be eliminated. And the Blackhawks needed to win tonight, or their season would be over. First period, watch the puck. Dennis Savard apparently keeps it in the zone, and then he will score to tie the game at 1, though everyone not pleased on the Colorado bench. In the second, Chicago takes the lead. Look at this beautiful deflection by Bernie Nichols, and it's 2-1 Blackhawks. But early third, Colorado will retake the lead. Valerie Kaminsky with this pretty goal, but Chicago's Joe Murphy has just scored with 1 minute to go in regulation to tie this game at 3. They will go to overtime. What's an NHL playoff game without it? Well, the Capital Region's chance to have 3 teams in the NCAA Division 1, 2, and 3 tournaments, respectively, has gone by the board. St. Rose has been denied an at-large bid to the Division 2 event. RPI had already qualified for Division 3 play, and Siena has a chance to make the Division 1 tournament after winning their second straight MAC tournament this afternoon at Heritage Park, beaten up on Iona 11-2. Siena will next play Patriot League champion Bucknell in a 2-out-of-3 series at Bucknell this weekend. The winner gets an automatic bid to the NCAAs. And the majors tonight, the Mets open in a West Coast road trip in San Diego, facing Fernando, who's blanked them thus far. Bottom of the second, Jason Isringhausen in a jam. Brian Johnson with the RBI single. Mets trail 2-0 in the 5th. In Miami, the Marlins going for their 8th straight win. Could Gary Sheffield get plunked by Andy Bennis? These 2 former teammates wanting to get reacquainted. Bottom of the 6th, Cards up 1-0, but not for long. Terry Pendleton with the bases jammed takes Bennis over the right field wall. 4th career grand slam for Pendleton. Marlins win 5-2. The streak lives. To the scoreboard, Philadelphia loses at home. Justice with 4 RBIs in that Braves win. Chicago blanks Houston. A couple of American League games, Milwaukee over Chicago, and the Royals will lead the Rangers by 2 in the 7th. That was it.
Alrighty.
Okay, and still ahead on News 10, take a look at your lottery numbers in the commercial break.
And then we'll meet the newest member of our extended family.
News 10 at 11 is brought to you by Sprint Business.
Check out tonight's winning lottery numbers, and when you get up tomorrow, check out News 10 in the morning. This is Robin Schwartz. I hope to see you starting at 6 a.m.
Finally tonight, we thought you might want to make a connection with the newest pet of one of our News 10 family. Take a look at a brand new baby called born at 1 o'clock this afternoon at Tracy Egan's farm. Tracy says she just couldn't resist a kiss and a hug for this little guy. She has a special sentimental feeling for him. He is the son of the very first horse ever born at Tracy's farm. The attentive mother is named Perfect Rain, and the sire is called Compliance. She says so far the colt has been perfectly compliant, although his mama apparently got upset when he started to follow our photographer Marty Miller instead of Mama. But tonight, Mom and Baby are doing just fine and awfully cute too.
Tracy's doing okay too.
She made it through. See you tomorrow, everybody. Take care.